This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Robbins, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, is this kind of fun?
Yeah, this is cool.
We've been talking for 10 minutes. Brandon made an accusation against me earlier. He thinks that I'm a Weezer conspiracist.
I think so.
And I'll explain what that is. And I'm actually not. But we're talking about Weezer because Weezer's an amazing band. Would you give them a top 10?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For me, personally, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Top 10 for sure?
Yeah,
Dang, dude. I don't know if I'd rank them in the top 10.
I think it's got to be the nostalgia thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was just high school for me.
Yeah.
It's I guess, what was it? The Blue Album came out in 94, I believe. So I graduated in 95.
Oh, great.
So it's it's right that junior, senior year, going into college thing where you just think you rule the world, right?
Yeah.
It's like nothing goes wrong. And Weezer was just blasting.
Yeah.
That was on the way to school, on the way home from school, my 1969 GMC half-ton with a speaker that I stole out of my dad's basement, like the whole house speaker.
Oh, really?
The tall ones. I took that thing, dude, wired it to the little cassette deck in my truck, and it was a bench seat, laid it on the front. My friends in the truck would have to kick their feet up over the speaker, but we thought we were so cool.
Oh, nice. It was just sitting straight up.
No amplifier. It sounded like crap, but we thought we were so cool.
Yeah, you're getting 20 watts out of that cassette player or whatever.
So picture Weezer and Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. That's right when they were coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story about that, so we'll go off on a tangent, then we'll get back to Weezer.
Yeah, sorry, I took off.
So I had in high school let me think what it was. I think it was a 94 purple Ford Ranger.
Okay.
Two-door.
Oh, that's beauty.
Tiny.
Purple fits you perfectly.
Well, oh yeah. Yeah. My parents had a theory, and this is one of my favorite theories they've ever had, right? That theory was, hey, I'll get them a two-door car.
Yeah.
At most, they're just going to be able to put two people in the front. Now, that meant I had 4 girls in the front plus me. Not a lie, not bragging. Always. There was always like 4 chicks up in the front. And then I'd have like 3 or 4 dudes in the back, up to 6 or 7, right? Depending on where we were going. Because it's like, hey, I got a truck. Let's just slam every freaking person in this thing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And my parents saw it a few times. I'd pull up to the house and be like, what have we done? You know what I mean? It's like, if you didn't want me to bring people, you should have got me like a freaking Accord or a Civic, like the standard issue car in the 90s. But they got me a vehicle I could take a lot of people. So my friend Dan Child and me, we started a business, quote unquote, right? He actually did all the work and pretty much it was all his, but he was gracious enough to let me be associated with it. But he would do car stereo installations.
Okay.
And so we'd go down to Ultimate Electronics.
Yep.
If that's right.
Remember that store, dude?
Yeah, down in Orem.
Yep.
And so people would come and be like, hey, we want to get a deck, we want to get an amp, JL speakers or Infinity speakers. I'm trying to remember all the brands back in the day. But so in my little purple Ford Ranger, I put one sub on the passenger side, but I angled it, built a custom box, right? And then like slammed the chair into it.
Yeah.
But it literally set up like maybe 3 inches further than like my chair.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't put it behind me or I couldn't be able to drive that thing. I mean, if anyone knows a Ford Ranger, you got to be about 5'9" to fit in that thing, right?
Yeah, there's not a ton of room. That's why it's perfect.
But we had, dude, I either had a 150 watt or a 200 watt amp in there. Like it was so overpowered, it was insane. But it was just for the sub.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just like, like everywhere we went.
And I'm sure the fit and finish on that car was just perfect. So there's no rattles.
Yeah,
like
no rattles at all. Yeah. We were crazy enough though. I remember blowing polyurethane in people's cars to stop the rattling.
Really?
Oh yeah, because people would come to us, we just blow that stuff in there.
That's
people
hilarious.
are insane. Letting these 2 high school kids, we were like 16. I remember one girl. So I grew up in the Highland Alpine area, so actually a lot of kids that we went to high school with got new cars, right? And she had a truck, like a pretty new truck.
Yeah.
And dude, he's got a Dremel, and he's just cutting holes in the door, like in like the actual frame of the metal and stuff, and just making it fit. If the magnet was too big, he's just boring out things, like
just going for it,
just craziness,
I bet they were still stoked when they got their cars back.
Oh, they were so cool.
No clue.
So cool. Yeah. Yeah. We'd throw little like tweeters up in the front, if I remember that, mid-range speakers. It's crazy,
It's funny.
I mean, we were doing, he could probably tell you better because I can't remember everything. I want to say like, dude, like most of our installs were like around $1,500.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Like they were all pretty intense.
A couple 16-year-old kids,
Yeah. We
cool.
we also built a custom box for my friend's Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
And that bass thumped so hard he could not have a rear view mirror because it would just shake off. You would gorilla glue that thing up and it would just like eventually it would just fall down while you were driving.
We'd measure how good people's stereos were by putting quarters or like soda cans on the top of the roof and then cranking it. And whoever's would bounce the highest or fall off first, you know.
We would have loved that challenge. So where did you grow up?
Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I did not know you're a Wyoming boy.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You're a hard
18
worker.
years there, man.
18?
18 years.
So,
I loved it. Honestly, I loved it.
Yeah.
It's such a good place to grow up.
No, it's actually an amazing place to grow up. I've been to Rock Springs a lot.
Yeah.
So,
people say they get either stranded there, you know, or they're like shut down on the freeways, or they stop at McDonald's right there. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's right where like I-80 gets too windy and
they
stuff, right? So they put the gates down.
They have gates on there.
Yeah. No, I've stayed there a few times.
Rock Springs, yeah. So everybody turns back around.
Yeah, I'm more stubborn than that. So I rented a hotel and watched a movie one time, and then slept there, and then got up in the morning. You know, because it's 2.5 hours from here?
Yeah, about 3 hours. 2.5
3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. I actually had a crazy thing happen to me out there. My dad has seizures, and so say about 2013, 14, he was actually driving some pipe up into a big town just north of Rock Springs. And so as he took the left to go off that road to go north, he had a seizure with my mom in the car, passed out, and actually just drove the car. His truck drove straight off the road. But in Wyoming, it just goes into a field.
Yeah, it's just a field.
Right? It's just like not even that big a deal.
Yeah. That's crazy, though.
And so they actually took him back to the hospital there in Rock Springs and put him in a medically induced coma, and then flew him in a little like puddle jumper plane, like a little, not like an ambulance plane, back to Salt Lake, and then took him up into probably University of Utah Hospital, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Something up there. So my family will always remember Rock Springs. So we get the call from my mom, right? And so my brother drove me up there, picked my mom up, took her back to Salt Lake. I drove the pipe back up to the job that it needed to go to, right? Because work's got to get done.
Yeah.
And I'm also not a doctor. There's nothing I could do. And then I drove all the way through the night, all the way back up to University of Utah Hospital. And I got there about 7 o'clock in the morning, something like that, right when they pulled my dad out of the coma, which was wild. It was like the Matrix. He had like a ventilator down his throat, and they like pull it out.
No way.
It's like freaking.
It's like huge. Yeah.
It's like 15 or 18 inches long. It was wild. It was wild.
That's crazy.
So I remember Rock Springs for that, and then it being cold.
Oh yeah, cold and windy. Yeah.
So what did you guys do there for fun?
Gosh, dude. So it's sports, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. I really didn't, the things I love now, I love being outdoors and things, but it was just sports. We just grew up. My dad was an athlete, and he was one of a couple insurance agents in the town. Had his own little insurance agency up there, and so when
you say he was an athlete.
So, well, he just played everything in high school. He didn't play college or anything, but he just loved sports and athletics all around. Like that was just what he loved. And so that's what we grew up, basketball, soccer. Didn't play football. Mom wouldn't sign the permission slip.
Oh, really?
I was tiny, dude. Just like my son. You've seen pictures of my son that loves to play. Just a tiny, scrawny little kid. Mom wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But everything else, everything else. And then by the time high school rolled around, I was still short, skinny, scrawny. And so I stuck with tennis. And tennis was my sport, dude, from about 7th grade on. 7th, 8th grade was about when I picked it up, and I played hours a day.
So you're still good?
Yeah, I'm decent. Yeah.
That's a hard sport.
Is that cocky to say?
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
Yeah. Oh. So I played tennis. Spent a lot of time. So it was, sometimes I'd get up early and go play, but most of the time it was just right after school. We'd go to the courts and stay there till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
From like 3 or 4 in the afternoon until 10 at night. And that was a lot of it right there, man.
So
then we'd go out and it's kind of cool because you drive right off the street and you're outside of city limits within like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So we'd have our 22s and sticking out the truck windows and going and shooting like gophers and things like that.
Yeah.
Try to take my kids. In my old age, I've gotten soft, dude. I was feeling bad just shooting them for fun. But it was a cool place to grow up. Just a lot of freedom like that. Back in the day when it's like, okay, see you kids.
Yeah.
Let us know where you are and just be home for dinner. So it's kind of interesting.
Dude, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. It was, we had to be home by dark in the summer,
Yep.
And it was, we go up in the foothills. So I grew up in the Highland Alpine area, right? So I went to Lone Peak High School.
Okay. And I just live right there at Lehigh right now.
Yeah.
In the mountain area.
Yeah. It's nice, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
the location is great.
It is nice. It's way different from when I grew up. I was going to say like, yeah, it's really cool. Remember that? And I was just like,
it's different.
Not even, it's a totally different place. Yeah. I mean, we go to the foothills. There's no houses up there. You know,
right.
You know where Westfield Road is?
I don't.
So as you know the dip before you go from Lehigh to Highland?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so right before that, if you take a left going north, that's Westfield Road.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not. I'm lying to you. As you go down the dip and you go up into Highland, you go past the cemetery, and there's that huge field that they're just barely about to start developing. Yeah, that road. If you take a left there, that's Westfield Road.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you went to the end of Westfield Road before it kind of looped up into Alpine, there was nothing there, right? And so we'd go up there all the time. We would do scout camps up there. There would be like abandoned cars. We'd go blow them up with like pipe bombs and like Molotov cocktails. We would make that crap all the time. And our parents, dude, I kind of look back and I'm like, were you aware of what we were doing? Because I feel like we were just in the garage with like, I mean, getting a glass bottle back in the day was kind of weird, right? It was pretty much beer. And so we're back there just like, packing like these Molotov cocktails and then going up in the hills and just throwing them and watching them explode and they burn. Yeah. Yeah, it was
crazy.
Fun.
It's different. So yeah, that's kind of stuff, I think we all kind of did dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Kids nowadays though, we'd be permanent residents in juvie.
Oh, for sure. Oh, we'd look at like
dry
terrorists.
ice bombs, like, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm thinking we were probably like 12 and we're cruising by the train tracks. There's trains that came through town and we take pennies and nickels and stuff and go put them on the train tracks. And we're sitting there, we're like from you to me against this train as it's just flying by. Parents had no clue. Yeah. None of us got hurt. So I guess it worked out.
I know. I wonder, what'd be interesting is to figure out the lessons we actually learned from that. Like a psychiatrist really breaking it down or a sociologist and being like, well, the reason why we are the way we are in our 40s or 30s or, when we're 60 is, based on how we were raised. Because, our generation's interesting. We're the generation that came from analog, but right into digital. Yeah. We kind of play in both fields. Huh? Yeah. Because, kids nowadays, they're full digital. They don't even know what analog is.
We kind of get skipped over, dude, in the talks. You notice that too? It's like boomers.
Millennials.
It's like Gen X, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I guess I was on the tail end of that. So you were probably early millennial even.
Oh,
where is that?
I'm offended you'd even bring that up. No, I was kidding. So
isn't it like right around there? It was
right
like within a couple of years.
Some people say it's 1980. Some people say it's 1981. Some people say it's 82, right?
Okay.
So literally 10 years ago, right? I'm in a meeting with these guys and they're like, Mark, you're pretty young. How old are you? And I was like, whatever, 31 or 30 or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. You're a millennial. I was like, I'm not a millennial. I've had a job since I was 8 years old. And they're like, what? Dude, it like honest to goodness offended me. Right.
Yeah.
And then we were
like, offended you today. So that's great.
No,
that's what I'm here for, man. I got more.
No, I've got over. But I ended up looking it up and I was like, how dare you freaking give me some. So there's like this little catch weight, basically like Gen Z, right? Where it's like, or is that the new one coming up?
Gosh, I don't even know, dude.
I can't keep track. I don't even know who comes up with this crap.
When you hit that age where you just stop caring, Like I've been 25? Looking forward for that for a long time. So.
Yeah, it's like I like the music I like, Yeah. It's almost like Gen X, you have to like the 80s. If you don't like 80s music, it's kind of like a telltale sign that you are a millennial.
Or not a true X. So that's I might be not quite a true X then, dude, because I can't stand the 80s.
Do you hate it?
And everybody I know people are just like, 80s were great, but I was like, dude, I can't stand it. Like right now, a lot of clothing and styles are coming back.
Well, yeah, clothing's terrible.
And I'm just like, dude, I just can't handle it.
Well, do you like?
But there is some cool stuff that came out of the 80s, though, for sure.
Yeah, you like The Cure?
Yeah.
Tears for Fears?
Yeah.
Do you like Nine Inch Nails?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You like the 80s.
So I do. I guess I do. I think it's more the clothes and just the look of it that I can stand. But then again, dude, you watch Back to the Future, like Goonies, some of those other things we were talking about earlier. Maybe it's just a nostalgia or whatever, but dude, the movies were just awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, Back to the Future is amazing.
A lot more Jones. Stuff like Open Thought.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to bag on millennials either, because I did, when I first started hiring a bunch of millennials, I kind of had a negative, like, okay, dude, I got to deal with these guys, like a little bit. But then there's some of the most caring, like creative people that I've worked with.
Oh, that's cool.
So very open-minded, like very, They just want to feel like they're part of something bigger rather than I feel like Gen X, boomers especially just want to go get a paycheck, work the same job for 30, 40 years, you know. Then X, we're kind of breaking that mold a little bit, but it's kind of like we blended between the two. Yeah. Then millennials and Z, like they just, all of them want to be entrepreneurs. They just want to go. They just want to feel like they're part of something bigger. It's more than just money, you know. So I find that kind of fascinating, kind of interesting.
You know, I like that because I've never really heard it phrased that way, but I agree with you 100%. You know, they need to feel, which is annoying for us, right?
No, it's very annoying.
We're the guys that like, our dads beat us into the ground. And so we just like did whatever they said. It's like, move that dirt pile over to there. Then when you're done, you're like, yeah, move it back over there.
Oh, exactly. Dude. That's funny you say that. We had a wood pile. I moved probably 3 times this summer.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. My dad made some story about termites or something, but no, it was just to get us outside working.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's funny that you said that, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have too. If I thought about it, I'd give you a million stories. And so, but then, you know, you get these millennial kids kind of working for you and they're just like, oh, I need a purpose. It's like, your freaking purpose is to do what I tell you to do. Like, where's your dad? You know?
But once you figure it out, dude, so like I kind of viewed the generation I grew up, you know, my bosses were just kind of ruled with an iron fist type things. Like you do it, you're not happy, suck it up, keep going. Right. Yeah. Which I think there's a lot of benefits and valuable lessons to learn from that. I think it teaches you how to just deal with life because life sucks, you know, things happen. But then the millennials, once you could figure out, and I still work on this constantly, but it's lead by inspiration, like try to motivate them so they own it instead of just doing what they're told. If they can own it, dude, they're some of the best employees and best people I've worked with. Yeah. They just own it and go for it. Very little oversight. You get the right people in there in the right place and you don't have to rule with an iron fist. It's harder at first because you're trying to figure out that psychological thing, how to motivate somebody and how to get them to own your ideas, how to make them think that their ideas is their own and it didn't come from you, you know, and you swallow your pride a little. But once they own it, dude, they soar. Yeah. And so that's, you know, so I have very mixed feelings. And every generation will say something about each generation, of course. But we're still the best. Gen X, dude. We got it.
You're gonna have to come with some real evidence to knock me off of Gen X is not the best. You know, and I guess I'm holding on by a baby little thread and like joining the group and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean we have this like we have insane worth ethic, if I can say that word. But we do have the ability to bridge those gaps. You know, where we're like one thing with my dad was very heavy on being to work on time and punching that clock. And if work starts at 8, you punch it at 7:55 or 7:59. Dude, you never hit that thing at 8, you know. And, you know, the best guys in my office here, you know, they're done at 5. They punch out at 5, you know, that's the whole freaking thing. And I'm not saying he is wrong, but from the generation he comes from, when that generation started, he was correct. But by the end, when he went into retirement, he was completely wrong because the only thing that matters is efficiency and outcome.
100%.
You know, like in my office, it's hilarious, right? Because people are like, well, what time do you guys start? And I'm like, oh, I got guys here 6 a.m. Well, what time do you guys end? I got guys here to 8, 7:38. Yeah. Like, well, when were you there? Whenever I want to be. What time would you like to come in? You know what I mean? We'll make it happen, you know? Right. And we're also in a generation that's very interesting because our parents' generation, and even the beginning of our careers, right? Like your day ended at 5. Oh yeah. You know? Yeah. Nowadays, my phone, 24/7, right? There's always something in there. There's always someone emailing me or texting me. There's always business to be done. And we've had to adjust the last 5 to 10 years to the social norms of being like, hey, listen, bro, if you text me at 9:30 on a Friday and I don't get back to you until Monday at 10 a.m., that's okay.
It's okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And I accept that same thing too, right? Like sometimes I'll text people, they just have a thought, right? Might be 3 o'clock in the morning. Woke up to take a pee and I'm like, oh, I forgot to hit this guy up. You know, then I'll hit him up and be like, hey man, blah, 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 here's the answer to your question. Or can you get this for me? And they're banging me back like right away, you know? And I'm just like, oh dude, you get back to me when it's convenient. Not
it's
like,
just on my head. I'm just
getting out there because I've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I love our generation. That was fun.
It was fun, dude.
We did not have cell phones growing up, which I think is a major benefit.
I think I was 21 or 22 when I got my first cell phone. Yeah. It was the old Nokia 8210. Why do I remember that, dude?
Oh, yeah.
It was that little candy bar phone.
Oh, yeah.
I love that thing, dude.
Did you play Snake?
Yeah, Snake. Texting on that. All right, now it's called messaging, right? I don't even know. But texting, it's like you're pushing the same button like 3 times. Yeah. And it had that predictive text. Got pretty quick. Dude.
I just remember the girls doing that, thinking like, oh, my gosh, you know, like... So funny thought, right?
But
so
dating without cell phones, remember that? We're asking girls out. Like you call them on their phone, they're home, they're not. You go to their house.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different world now.
Yeah, you got to pick them up. You got to talk to their dad.
Yeah.
You know, on one of the podcasts, I was with one of my high school friends, and I've been friends with him since we were like freaking 4th grade, 5th grade.
Yeah.
You know, and we're joking around. So when we grew up, you know, kids younger than us, this is gonna blow their mind, but you call the house phone, right? And any phone in the house, if you lifted it up, you could hear the conversation. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you think you're talking to your girlfriend, your mom and dad could be just sitting in another room listening to your whole conversation, right? It was like the most big brother thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Also completely understood, and you knew it was going to happen. So my friend Jared, you know, I grew up in a very LDS community, you know, Highland and Alpine, right? I was like 98% LDS, right? But we loved rap music, and we loved making out with girls, and you know, just doing the normal stuff that kids do, right? And so my friend calls up my other friend. I'll leave their names out of it. he goes, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "What's up, man?" You know, like, and they're just like kind of like going back and forth, being funny.
Yeah.
He's like, "You ready to go out tonight?" He's like, "Yeah." "You ready to see some girls?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's all, "You ready to get laid?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Let's go touch some boobs," or something like that, right? He just keeps on amping this up on the other side. And right as he says something just inappropriate enough, my friend's dad goes, "Hey, you, get up in my room." And they're like, "Oh crap." They hang the phone up, you know, and then they nicknamed my friend Dirtbag for the rest of his life.
Oh, no way, dude. That's hilarious. That's funny. That was good surveillance, though. I mean, it worked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
He was a more active dad, so it was pretty risky to get him saying all that stupid shit, you know.
Yeah,
but we used to say,
you don't think about it, dude. When you're with your buddies, you just kind of roll. You know what I mean?
No, we used to always say like, "Hey, let's get laid tonight." Blah 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 blah. It's like we were not talking about sex. We were talking about making out.
Yeah.
But our parents are just like, "What?
You're like, wait, what?
You guys kidding me?"
A little different definition, Dad. Yeah.
And our parents, dude, they kind of came from the hippie generation.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, so when they hear about drugs, these acid dropping nutcases, you know, that's what I was taught.
And that's when the war on drugs started, right? After the hippie generations, like they just picked something. Yeah.
Yeah.
To kind of go on it.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge history buff.
I'm not either.
You know how it is, right? You have your own truths and you just believe them until you don't.
I like that, dude. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. Growing up in the 90s was dope. So who is your favorite band from the 90s?
Dude, I'm gonna say Weezer.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Weezer.
Oh, we gotta get back to the conspiracy theory. So the conspiracy theory is that when Kurt Cobain died, you know, he committed suicide, for those who don't know who Kurt Cobain is, that he actually faked it and turned himself into Rivers Cuomo, who's the lead singer of Weezer.
How have I never heard this before? That's hilarious.
Because it's ridiculous. That's why I've never heard it.
I'm gonna start spreading it though. I like it.
So if you look up interviews with him from the 90s, Rivers, right, dude, people will be like, they'll ask him about it, and he's just like, "Nah, I'm pretty sure I'm me." Like, you can go back to my high school. Like, yeah, I've got all these memories. My parents, you can give them a call if you want, you know?
Yeah.
He started getting really annoyed with it. You know, because, had like the Warped Tour.
Yep.
And all the little festivals, like the summer-long festivals they would do. And he's just like idiot reporter after idiot reporter, right? Just asking about this. Because when did Cobain die? Was it 93?
Yeah, 93, 94-ish, yeah.
Yeah. And then, Weezer comes out of nowhere, like basically.
Yeah.
Like
they
94.
went big real quick.
Yeah,
right?
Got huge.
It was 94. Weezer was 94.
Was it? Yeah. Yeah, it lines up. It's just good enough to make the conspiracy work enough for people who want to believe it.
It's funny, dude.
Yeah.
That is funny.
So, yeah, anyone that likes Weezer, I always ask them about that, because they're like, well, like most guys, right, who are big Weezer fans are like, well, it's possible, but it's possible. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm kind of dismissing it, but now I'm going to go home and check it out, dude. Look at it, try to find some old interviews,
Oh, look up Kurt Cobain in 1993, and then look up Rivers in freaking 1994. Like,
cool. I was probably too naive to even paying attention to anything like that, I just like their music.
Yeah. No, I remember my aunt actually bought me the Weezer, the Blue album, for my birthday.
Yeah.
And gave it to me, and I remember thinking I was so freaking cool. I probably had 10 CDs in my case, right? Flipping through them. Remember how we used to have those little one disc cases?
Dude.
You would hold 25 CDs.
25 CDs, something like that.
Then by the time I graduated high school, dude, I had the 4 disc, this massive book, and you'd go through all these CDs. I remember
that, dude. I've got it. I still have one of those somewhere.
Do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, you gotta hold on to that forever,
albums, dude. That was pretty sweet.
You're gonna go to a 40-year reunion, dude, and pull that thing out. Oh, it'd be freaking gold. You guys in your 60s, right? Just being like, check this out.
Out there, look at this, dude.
Notorious Life After Death,
Still living
part
in the
1.
past and the glory days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. That's funny. Yeah, Weezer was, it was just, I don't know, something about it. I was really, I mean, growing up in Wyoming, dude, like California culture was really like the cool place then, you know what I mean? So it's like, you see all these little white farmer boys and we all have like our little surfer boy haircuts and stuff, you know what I mean? Listen to Weezer, listen to some of the, I don't know, it's just kind of a cool vibe that came
Bleaching
along
your hair
with it.
blonde.
Then you go on the LDS mission, dude, and I was, you know, I was one of those missionaries. I was pretty strict, like pretty strict obedient.
Yeah.
But I did go buy the Pinkerton album because Blue was out before, right?
Yeah.
And then Pinkerton came out when I was on my mission. I was in Mexico, and I found it, and that was the one non-approved source of music that I listened to on my mission.
Put it on a level 2 when your companion
I
goes to
listened
sleep.
to it for about 3 weeks, and then I mailed it home.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
but it was good, dude. It was fun.
So I was actually
Weezer.
similar to you. I was very obedient on my mission. I wasn't going to go on a mission until I was about 18 and a half. That's a whole nother story, right? Then I kind of was like, well, I'll go make my parents happy. You know, this will make them happy. You know, I'll be able to still play football. Like, I'll still be able to accomplish everything I want to, and this will make them happy, right? And so I went out there, but I went out there with a purpose, right? I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Let's go.
You know, that's kind of my mantra in life, right? It's like, either I'm not going to do it or I'm going to go 100.
Or go all in.
Yeah, or at least try
Which
to.
I love.
Try to be 100.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so, but one of my friends, he'll laugh at this because he listens to my podcast, but on the mission, I was zone leader forever, right? Never AP. I wasn't that good, but I was zone leader for a long time. And I went to his house one time to do splits or whatever, and they're listening to Boys to Men, right? And I was like, hey, guys, turn this freaking stuff off. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't approved, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, actually, I called the mission president and got this approved. And I was like he's listening to like On Bended Knee. You know what I mean? Like all the freaking like lovey-dovey songs, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what did you say to him? Like, how'd you get this approved? And he goes, well, I told him they're a Christian
Boys to Men.
Rhythm and blues band. And then you say R&B, right? And I was just like, huh. I'm like, so you're saying if I called him up right now, he'd be like down to listen to this song? And he goes, well, he approved it, right? And I was like, which is so dumb. Like, I'm like power tripping on this kid, right? So I called the mission president that night when I got home. I was like, so I heard Boys to Men's approved. And he's like, yeah, Elder, I'll call him out, Elder Pearson. He's only laughing. He says, Elder Pearson, he explained to me that, they're a gospel band. That's what he called them. He called them a gospel band, which is how they started out, right?
Yeah,
but I'm
true.
like, I go, President, I don't think they've ever put a gospel album out, if you want to know the truth. They're an R&B band. I mean, they kind of talk about making love and, laying your lady down soft. And he's like,
wait, what?
Tell him he can't listen to that anymore.
He's like, that's out. Unapproved.
Yeah, he's like, that's out. And so then I called him up and outed him. And it's like, dude, it's so funny. I think about that now, and I'm just like, dude, why are you being a dick? Which we're still good friends, so he, probably was like, oh, Mark's fun, but he can be an asshole sometimes.
That's pretty funny. He's holding that grudge forever. He's not letting it go.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I had it approved. I was feeling good about it. Wasn't guilty. Mark ruined it for me. Oh, that's funny, dude.
Although they go. I love Boys and Men. It's probably because I was jealous. The more I think about it, I was just like, I got to listen to this bullcrap music and you get to listen to this? Nah, we're both the same. I'm going to X this out of your life.
It was kind of interesting, though, because some of the missionaries that I felt like were some of the best missionaries were also some of the ones that weren't as obedient, which is kind of, that's kind of not a popular thing to say. But there's something about it. There's like, it's kind of like that. I'm here. I'm going to work hard, but at the same time, it's just that personality, something about that obsessive personality, just go.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But they could just relate with the people a lot more. They always push people to work hard, but when they're working hard, they're working their butts off.
Yeah.
But then when they're home, they're just kind of goofballs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, and that wasn't always the case, but I did notice that with a lot of the ones that were disobedient or whatever that you want to call it.
See, I had some of those principles, right? So, like, we were going to hit our numbers. We were going to go out the hours that we were supposed to go out, like all that kind of stuff. But P Day, it was just like, don't bother me. Like, we're going to have some fun. Like, every P Day. So I was in Scotland, right? So we were like going to castles every P Day. And I was always getting permission to leave the area or the zone or whatever I was in. To go see some castle, And my mission president was always like, well, if you get a non-member to take you. And it was like, perfect. Because I had like 5 non-members that would drive me anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Because you
just connect. I could just see you just connecting with the people just randomly on the street and people just loving you. Because you'd be kind of not expected. They kind of expect missionaries to be just like, just like no personality, kind of robots, and I could just see just like, what's up, boys?
Oh yeah.
And so it just like, and people probably just loved it just because it was so what they didn't expect.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of fun too. I actually used to busk. in the town squares. Did you do golden questioning? Was that a thing? You ever heard that?
No.
So that's when you like stand on the street and just like talk to people, right?
Okay.
Like, hey, can I bother you? Hey, can I stop you for a second? Do you guys do any of that?
Yeah, we did street contact for sure. But
so we just called it golden questioning in our mission. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
And so we had a guy that could play the bagpipes, an American, right? So he would actually stand up there and play the bagpipes, and people loved it. Like loved it. And so me and another elder would actually go and busk every now and again with like, you know, acoustic guitars and just sit there and play music and stuff. And then, dude, it's so funny. I'm not a member anymore, right? I haven't been a member for like 12 years.
Yeah.
And I would go on a mission tomorrow just because I want to like do the things I knew we should have done better. You know, like in Scotland, I would have done a ton of radio shows, you know, religious, non-religious. We got invited to do that all the time. But like missionaries get nervous, right? Because they're like, what if they ask me this? What if they ask me that? You know, it's like go in there with conviction, you know, just say what you want, you know. But I would have done basketball camps, tons and tons. Community outreach is exactly what I would have done, the whole mission.
Yeah. I think how they've changed now too. They're totally different than they were.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. They're much more service oriented, you know.
Oh, okay.
When we were back in the day, it's like go knock on the doors, go make this many number of contacts. Now it's much more reach out, see how you can help people. They don't really approach with teaching the gospel right away. They get to know people first, which is probably a much more effective way of doing it anyway.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking.
But that's what I loved about the mission in the first place. Just getting to know. Like I was in Boston for a while and in Mexico. I was in Boston waiting for a visa.
I was gonna say you got held up for a visa, right?
Yeah, I did. And so up there we're working the projects. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just awesome. I just remember going in there one time. You have just a bunch of little gangbangers type dudes.
Yeah.
And we're walking through and they're giving us a hard time this one time. And probably the biggest black man I've ever seen in my life. Just huge, just jacked up dude, whatever. Comes up to these boys, grabs one of them as we're walking through, slams them against the wall. He's like, hey, these boys are with Christ. You leave them alone, you know? And after that, like we were like celebrities in the projects. We'd walk through it. Like he must have just been like the ringleader, the alpha, you know? And we could just walk through there, a couple little white boys in the middle of these Boston projects, and people just loved us, dude. Then we played ball with them and stuff, you know what I mean? And they didn't expect us to be athletic at all. Yeah. And so we're playing basketball and football with them and kind of smoking a lot of them. They just didn't expect it. So it's cool because then you connect with them, all of a sudden you get to know real personalities. You break down those walls of preconceptions, and now you're getting to know them, you know. And same thing in Mexico. You break down the language barrier. You're speaking their language. You start telling jokes in Spanish, stuff like that. Yeah. And all of a sudden, man, people are just people. Yeah. You know, we all want to be happy, healthy, and successful. Yeah. It's like, it's really interesting how you can break that down.
Oh, dude, you are describing my brother's mission to a T, right? He went to Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
Right. And so my brother's name's Brett, right?
Okay.
And he's about 6'4", I think he's about 6'4". And dude, he learned how to play basketball on his mission because like he'd be in the projects, it's like, and I've never been there, but like he's like scary places, Mark. Like, you know, we'd see violence all the time, and just like he goes, but every single person was like, they were Jesus. Those are men of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we don't touch them. We don't do anything to them. And he played basketball like every day, you know? And I look back at that and I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, get some flipping t-shirts. What you really should have done is get a whole bunch of t-shirts and handed them out.
Yeah.
You know, LDS Church, Mormon Church, or whatever back in the day, you know, and then nowadays, you know, Church of Jesus Christ, a lot of these things, right?
It'd be a long t-shirt.
Yeah, it'd be a long t-shirt. But, you know, like, I mean, if you got creative with it, and maybe this is irreverent, you know, but I don't know, put an Angel Moroni dunking a ball. You know what I mean? Like the Air Jordan thing, you know, the Angel Moroni or something like that. I think some of those dudes.
I think you just came up with a new t-shirt brand, dude, right there.
License it from Nike, right? I'm telling you, I think that I think people would have loved that. And it brings a human touch to like, your mission, because a lot of people think you're weird, you know.
Yeah,
and we are kind of weird, you know. We go on 2-year-long missions, you know. There's special, garments that you wear and stuff like that, and people read about that and learn about it. Then they meet you for the first time, and they're just like, "Oh, these are the guys. They're going to try and baptize me. They're going to try and convert me," and you can break a lot of those walls down. I mean, if you're in the local news, right? It's like, hey, 5 guys from, you know, Utah or all over the world or whatever did this like community service thing, or you get your whole mission, right? I actually thought it'd be cool to build a church once a year. So you get like, my mission was 170 missionaries, right? And it's like, dude, if we were to build like a Pentecostal church or a Methodist church or a Church of Scotland church or something like that, or like even repair one, do roof work, do framing, you know, like all the heavy lifting, hard stuff that's expensive, you know, all that kind of junk. I think if they did that, I mean, you'd be all over the news. Like, why would the LDS church help refix this church? You know what I mean? Then you start building, you know, community relations, challenge them to a game of basketball or soccer in my mission, right? You challenge that church to our church and make it fun, make it kind of an event. I don't know. I know it's funny because I'm not a member anymore, but it's like, dude, there's so much cool stuff you could have done. I wish I was on the radio shows because I used to like to debate. I was well studied back on my mission.
All right, there you go.
I actually got in a debate with an archbishop.
Did you really?
The Archbishop of Scotland. Oh yeah, he got real mad at me. He kicked me out of his office.
No way.
Yeah. So in Scotland, they have I don't know what you call them. I guess you call it a chapel, but like their actual like stone building that's been there for like, you know, 500 years or 300 years. The back of them always had the living quarters of the priest, right? So you could see a big church, there's trees around it, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, bigger than a city block area. But then like, as you're walking the back side of it, it looks like there's just a normal home. So you'd knock on it, right? But it's actually the priest. And they would always invite you in because they're like, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I was zone leader, my guys knocked into this building and they called me up that night. They're like, dude, we got rallied. This guy was like about abortion and like all this kind of stuff, you know, and he wants us to come back. He said, bring your leader. And I was like, oh, game on. Like, when are we going? They're like, tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'm in. What time? You know, so I'm taking a train down there. We're doing this whole thing. And we go into this priest and it was funny, man. It was the first time I got like stumped, like hard.
Yeah.
And it like fired me up. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go find a counter argument to this.
I'm going to go get this.
And so I sat down with him. Basically what happened, we walk in and he takes us on a tour of this like cathedral, but it wasn't a cathedral. It wasn't that big. It's more like a ward branch, not like a temple kind of thing. Anyway, so he taking them on this tour and it's beautiful. You know, they got the old stained glass and the old pews and it's, you know, it's just what you think an old church would be. So we sit down in his quarters and this is just the priest, not the archbishop. And he's like, well, do you guys believe in abortion? And I was like, no, we don't. You know, we believe that, you know, that would be murder or whatever, you know, back in the day. And dude, he literally whips out the stake handbook and slaps it down in front of me. He goes, yeah, you guys do. If the woman's raped or if it's incest or if she's going to die, they can have an abortion and not be punished by your church.
Yeah.
And I'm like reading it and I was like, well, yeah. You know what I mean? And he goes, see, you're not absolute. You guys are wishy-washy. He starts lighting me up.
Going off.
And he threw me off so bad because he caught me, right? I had said, yeah, we don't believe in abortion. Blanket statement, you know, and then we get into the whole freaking thing. And so then he was like, I'd love for you guys to come back and meet with me again, you know, maybe we could talk to you guys about the actual Jesus Christ, like being really condescending.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we'll be back. How does next Tuesday sound? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to go call my mission president.
Get this ready.
Call the freaking church headquarters to get these answers ready, right? And so when we called back, he was like, actually, the Archbishop would like to meet with you guys. So we go to downtown Glasgow in a cathedral.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, what a cool, yeah.
And we're sitting there, and my little arrogant butt had prepped, right? So we go to sit down. Dude, we're out on like a 20-person table, right? Like a dining table, but it was like in his office. I mean, it was like 35-foot ceilings, all stone. Awesome. You know, they got like tapestries coming down. It was insane.
So cool.
I wish I should have just sat in there with a camera and just taking pictures. Awesome, you know, he's got like his little desk in the corner. He's got him and the Pope, like 10 pictures of him and the Pope, right? I should look up his name because he was an important dude. You could tell, right? He was in the robes when we were in there. No hat, but like the robes and everything.
Yep.
So we sit down, we start going back and forth, blah, 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 blah. He brings abortion up. I hit him with it the right way, you know. And he's like, well, okay, I understand that. I'm like, yeah, and you guys do that too. You know, but all you have to do is go sit in a confessional and confess to it, and he's all good, you know. And I'm like ready to go. And this is what got me kicked out. So he goes, well, the problem with you, you know, is that you guys believe that God is three personages. Mm-hmm. And I go, well, that makes a lot of sense, don't you think? And he's like, well, how do you mean? And I go, well, you remember the Garden of Gethsemane? I go, tell me if this makes sense. And I go, myself, forgive myself for I have, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I just say myself instead of God and Jesus. Right. And I guess that's the blasphemy level you got to hit with him. And dude, he just stands up and he's like, get out.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, why are you so upset about that? He's like, get out of here. The blasphemy just starts going crazy, just starts screaming blasphemy at me. And I left, you know, obviously, right? Because he was going mad and there's like 10 people in there. Yeah. So I was apologizing, and I left, but I was still arrogant. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
right?
meant no disrespect. I'm kind of glad I got it.
Yeah. I kind of got it, but I'm also, and I remember like walking home, and my companion was like, "That was crazy, dude. Like I wasn't my companion. It was one of my. We were on splits, and I remember sitting there thinking, I was like, "No, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
like this isn't
something. That's not how you want to leave it.
Yeah, this doesn't feel good. You know, it was a real life lesson for me." Because I was like, even though I got kind of the upper hand, because he got upset in a debate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I would rather have gone back and changed that. You know, and that's one of the reasons why I started changing my perspective on the mission. Because I'm like, no, I should have become friends with him. You know, even if we were opposing on religious beliefs, I should have became friends with him. Because now, I mean, think about it now. I'd be 41 years old. I'd have a buddy who's a 70-year-old ex-archbishop, or I don't know if they'd keep that forever or what, you know, but it's like.
Still, you have that relationship.
And nowadays, I could have been like Facebook friends with them and like had all this kind of cool experiences. And you never know. Maybe I could have gone on a private tour of the Vatican or something, you know? I mean, who the heck knows if I would have been friends with him. And we could have been friends. It would have been easy.
Well, my thoughts are, how often do you persuade somebody by telling them they're wrong?
Never.
You know, ever in life. Like, as soon as you come in saying, hey, dude, your opinion sucks. Yeah. It's like they close down and they just want to dig their heels in and go.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if you came in trying to understand their position and slowly just kind of then shared yours and had respect, like you might not change their minds, but at least the conversation's open, right?
So, well, we're both Christian at the time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're both Christian.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I just think it's interesting. Like, you just look out now. It's like everybody's trying to tell everybody they're wrong all the time. It's like, you go nowhere with that. But I was going to ask you, you're sitting here talking, so you're out of the church now, but you obviously loved your mission.
Yeah.
Sounds like. So tell me if you could say top lesson from mission.
Time management.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Time management's I'm going to throw a couple out and I don't know where I'd rank them. That was the first one that popped in my head is time management. Relationship management's number 2, right? I had, everyone did. They had a couple companions that you're just like, oof. Right? Yeah. How long is 6 weeks? Like, I can't stand this any longer. My first companion was real rough because he wanted me to be a really good missionary. And so he would pressure me to memorize all the time. And I memorize fast, right? But after 3 weeks of, like, if I was on the toilet, he'd be like, hey. I'm like, yeah? He's like, you memorizing in there? I'd be like,
It's like, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we'd be on the bus, I'd have to be memorizing. In the morning, I'd have to memorize, right? And so, but like, we got certified, so we passed off like, like the main headers of like all the discussions, right? Then you learned a whole bunch of scriptures, like 70 or 80 scriptures, right? Pass that off. Then you learned all the discussions, memorized them all completely, right? That was like master teacher or something like that. Then you would do a whole bunch of other scriptures, if I'm remembering this right, and you'd be called like a mind of the master, right? Eventually, once you learned everything, you started memorizing the Book of Mormon. And so I got to that point and I was like, well, not before I got real mad at him, but like eventually I was just like, I'm just going to rebel against you, dude. Like, I'm so sick of you telling me to memorize every 5 seconds. Like,
yeah, right.
And I was the first member of my family to really go on a mission. Right. I had 2 older cousins on my mom's side, but they were sick. So they actually served in like Cove Fort and like a local mission. Okay. So they didn't they got a mission call and stuff, but it wasn't like they learned a language and went out in the world, that kind of stuff. And for some weird reason, I thought a mission was a 9 to 5 with the weekends off. No idea why. That's what I thought. Right. Yeah. So I'm in the MTC like, wait, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like,
all day, every day?
We get 4 hours off on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what do we do the rest of the time?
Interesting, dude. You think? Yeah.
It's like, knock doors, dude. Spread the word. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
So
and
I was just
at that outsider perspective, dude, looking in. Like, if you took yourself out of that culture and you're just like, how the crap did they convince these kids to go do that?
Oh, it's wild.
That's amazing to me, dude.
I mean, you're doing 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9:30 to 9:30 almost every single day.
I remember running to make it home on time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tons of that stuff. But looking back, relationship management was big, right? And what that means is you can't escape it, right? So you have to learn to get along with people,
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the way to do that is you have to be grateful for them and grateful for the things that you like about them. And it's not that you're really necessarily ignoring the stuff you don't like about them, but you minimize it in your mind and make it not a thing, right? Yeah. Like my first companion, hopefully he finds this funny if he even listens to this, but every morning he'd get like a mug full of milk, right? And he would plop in 2 like cookies. We'll call them Oreos, but they weren't. They were whatever the local thing was. And he'd like flip them. And I would just watch him do it, and I wanted to drown him in them. Because I'm like, just the sound, right? Like the tink.
Yeah.
Tink. And then he'd look up and be like, what scripture did you memorize?
Oh,
and I'd just be like, you know, like go to freaking choke him. And, but I just remember, I'm like, dude, if I ever see someone do that with 2 cookies, it like flashes me back. But so in the first, you do interviews with the mission president, right? And, did you write letters every week to your mission president? Like updating
We didn't
him?
to the president, no.
Oh, we did every week.
We didn't have to, yeah.
Yeah, so we were like, this is what we're up to, blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
What's hard, what's not.
Yeah.
And by week 4 or 5, I'm complaining up a storm. I hate this dude. I hate this guy. So then I have an interview with him, right? And they would always do the senior companion first and then the junior. And then he actually brought me in first for my first interview. So I was like, oh, good. The man's heard me, So I sit down, this little arrogant 19-year-old. And, I had saved this dude from some fights. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I thought I was being pretty good, right? So I sit down and he's like, my mission president's wise. So he's like, what's going on? And I'm just like, he's like lighting him up on all this stuff that I can't stand. Won't leave me alone. Does this. He does weird things, but I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to need him moved. And I'd love to have another companion in here. That'd be great. My mission president's just like, And at the end, he was basically just like, yeah, we'll see what we can do, Elder. I understand your concerns and we'll see what we can do. Yeah. And I was like, great, shake his hand, give him a hug or whatever. Right? I go walking out there and I see my companion come in. I'm just thinking like, like good luck,
Yeah.
So then the calls come in like 5 days later. Right. And, he gets on, and I'm like listening. And he's like, yeah, you and Elder McCormack will stay together for the next 6 weeks. And I was just like, what?
I just told you all this.
What do you mean? He's an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And then I actually didn't learn. I learned later that lesson where he was just like, no, you boys are going to work it out, And I did the exact same thing with my second companion. But the problem with my second companion was he was insanely disobedient, right? So, and then he was my senior companion again, right? So my first one was actually really obedient, really good guy, was actually good with people, but he was just pressuring me, right? Just to be better. Yeah. And so by my second companion, I was like, oh, I've done screwed up. Like my first companion was not that bad. Now that I've experienced this bro, who I actually to this day don't like. I haven't talked to him in 20 years. We got physical with each other. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so that one, the exact same thing happened, right? So I go to we're writing letters. I can't stand this dude. He never works. I don't ever go outside. He would make me go golden question, like we were talking about street contacting, for like 4 or 5 hours in the morning. He wouldn't do it with me. Right? Which I was fine with. I was like, I don't even want to see your face. I'll break the rules right now just so I can just get away from you. Right? And he would just go to a pub and watch soccer all day. And the only reason why I found that out, because he wanted to meet at a certain time in a certain place, right? Is I ended up walking past the pub and he's in there. He wasn't drinking or anything. He was just watching sports. He was a huge soccer fanatic, right? And I'm just like, you mother trucker, And so I had the exact same conversation with Mr. President again. I'm like, hey, he's disobedient. This is ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. Like I learned my lesson from the first guy. He's just doing the whole, that's terrible, right? Oh, yeah. Now, he came in second again and my mission president lit him up, right? Because he came out of there and was all mad at me for tattling on him. And I was like, what do you want, bro? I'm not going to lie to the man. You know what I mean? Like you're the one that's a piece of crap or whatever. I didn't swear that much back then. And in fact, he was the first person I had sworn at in like 9 months.
He got it out of you,
and he got the full blast words, And then, dude, when that call came from Moves, it was the same thing. He was just like, yeah, you guys are staying together for 6 weeks, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to stop complaining because every time I complain, I get stuck with these bros, And then then the next move, I ended up going with a different guy, and got into a better relationship. But, my whole point with this long drawn out story is, number one, you can't experience the good without the bad. You need to understand that or everything's neutral and it's all blah. It's just, there's no good or not evil. There's just no good and bad. There's no contrast there. So my first companion I thought was bad. He actually ended up being a good companion, right? My second one was terrible. And then by the time I had kind of put, those, what was that? Probably 4 months together, 4.5 months together. I was like, oh, okay. So I went to my next companion. I'm like, you know what, dude? I don't care what you do. That's weird. let's just focus on the good and enjoy this time together.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
It was awesome. And I was only with him for about 8 weeks because I went home for back surgery.
Well, you got along with him, so you need to put you with somebody else.
Yeah,
so
to this day. And the craziest thing is his cousin married my brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's from Holland. He's Dutch.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was almost like this little connection happened. And then he actually told everybody in the mission how cool I was and fun I was and, personable, and he liked being with me. And we had tons of fun. We had tons of fun with members, non-members. We went to soccer matches. We played soccer all the time. And him and I have a really good relationship to this day. Like if he needs something in America, I help him with it, send it to him, whatever he needs. And it set that kind of tone where I was like, oh, well, that's what a good relationship looks like. I couldn't even tell you stuff that annoyed me about him. I know people that can't stand him from the mission. Because he was kind of arrogant too, but he was insanely smart. He spoke 5 languages. In fact, I did not believe he was Dutch, because when he would speak to me in English, right? Because we spoke English, obviously, right? He had a California accent.
Wow.
Which most Europeans, if you know this about them, when they learn English, they learn the Queen's English, right? So they speak with a British accent. He spoke with a perfect American accent. I mean, perfect.
Wow. That's
if he was sitting here right now, you would not believe that he.
Yeah.
I actually made him speak Dutch to me all the time because I was like. But he loved Green Day, and he loved, I think he liked Weezer too, but he loved Green Day, and he loved American shows. And so he's like, no, I just learned that. I learned that accent instead of the other one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there you go.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, I mean, going back to my mission, relationships, learning how to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit in a room with anybody for 4 days. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you're insane and crazy, it's just, I just almost get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Like in our group, right? So you're a brother in the Watt,
a bro.
I mean, there's not one dude in there. I mean, they could be wild and crazy. It's like, oh, I could do 48 hours with you. You know what I mean? Even if you're doing crazy.
Well, I noticed that right away with you too. You're one of the first guys I met walking in the door down there.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, bro, want to go on a walk? I was like, all right. It was cool though. It was cool. It's super easy to talk to you, and it's just cool. Like, I truly think a lot of those skills are developed. Because you're forced to,
You absolutely.
And that's like, I'd say my number one thing off that too is just people, working with people.
Yeah.
And
you learn
kind of what I
Spanish.
said earlier before, where it's like you speak their language and all of a sudden you understand they're just like you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everyone, and that I agree with that 100%. I mean, everyone's just trying to live their best life at some level. You know, whether they're in a good spot or not in a good spot or in between. I mean, most of us are in between, right?
Yeah.
It's just trying to enjoy each other, trying to have a good time. That's why our men's group is really fun for me, right? It's a lot of, like, I was in our group chat, we're going to Bear Lake here in a month or 5 weeks or whatever, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, boys, we are going hard. Prep yourselves. Get your sleep in before we go up there. I don't care if we sleep 2 hours a night, because I don't get to see these guys a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, life's busy. There's 50 of us, right? Yeah. Some guys are in other states, and like, I love connecting and, having fun and like getting together whenever we can, right? But like, the Ludus masterminds where we're all together, it's just like, let's go. What's new? What's up? As soon as we get done with all Jimmy stuff, let's hang out all night. I'm so stoked for it. I can't.
Like, let's just go.
Yeah, let's just have fun.
That was such a cool vibe, dude. I'm just thinking back to Moab. We went in there, and I honestly joined just to go on some cool adventure trips. My buddy Brandon is in the group 1. I think I told you this already. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And he's just cool. And I see pictures of him swimming with sharks, like doing all these cool things. Like, bro, I need some of that. Yeah. So that's 100% why I joined. I seriously didn't even know about all the workshops and self-improvement and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But walking in there, and that I think it was really the second night when we did the circle. Yeah. And Jimmy's like, he gets in the middle and just says, step in just to be seen and step out. Don't say a word, but have you done this? Have you experienced this? Have you not this? Yeah. And that right there, dude, seeing 50 plus dudes who didn't know each other at all different experiences of life. And you could just feel the unity. You know what I mean? You could just feel it come together. Yeah. And all those walls of like, hey, I'm the man, like the facade of perfection, I think we all carry a little bit. You're getting vulnerable with these strangers. That was such a powerful experience for me. And it really made me want to just get to know everybody in that room. Like, I felt like an instant love and connection for the dudes in there. Yeah. And that was really cool. That was and especially after hearing all the badass stuff that they did the night before, you know what I mean? Yeah. When we made those lists, it was cool to see, hey, we all have our issues. We all have problems that we're working through. Let's lean on each other and move forward. Yeah. And that's kind of the vibe of the group. Ever since that night, I really think that was when the bonds first were created. And now we show up 3 months later in St. George, and we're instant bros. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's really cool.
No, You're 100% right. That Moab weekend is so funny, man, because I love to give Jimmy credit, especially when he deserves it. And it's like, he got that weekend right.
He did.
You know?
Yeah. And he stresses about it, which is funny to see, but
yeah,
you know, but he pulls it off. It's great.
Well, and
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I look back on it too, you know, because I told him when I joined, I've told the story too many times, but I told him I'm 100% in, but I'm not jumping off that rope swing, right? You know, and he always laughs. And, but I meant it. I was like, I'll be 100% in everything. You know, I try and make every single call. You know, I think there's been maybe only 2 calls I've missed, our weekly calls. And one of them is because he changed the time from 2 to 12. Right. And I just had a crazy busy day. I think we went to Iceland like that week. And so I just had meetings. I couldn't move. And so I missed that call, but like, you know, I do every exercise. You know, the gratitude stuff was awesome. You know, Ryan Bingham and I were companions. We were accountability buddies back then, right? So we were sending them back to each other, and I think it's just like life. You just gotta just do everything, do literally everything, and just try it. And that's how you experience life. That's how you enjoy things. That's how just life gets better. Yeah, you know, at least in my opinion. So
yeah, that's cool.
Or you can play it safe and watch TV all day.
Well, you saying that, like, this is kind of embarrassing to say, but this is why I'm going to say it, you know, because I don't want to really talk about it. But the last one they're challenging, who was it? Was it Jimmy that challenged us, or Woody, or somebody challenged us to do to go do something really uncomfortable next little bit. Just start saying yes to things, get outside of your comfort zone. You know, I have a buddy who owns a sauna company. Have I talked to you about the saunas at all?
No.
He's a young hustler guy, just one of those guys, just a stud. You know, you just like, this guy's going to go places type thing. And he just goes out and decides he falls in love with sauna and like in health and wellness. And so he's like, I'm going to go build this high-end luxury sauna. Find some local contractors, builds this sauna. And he's trying to build his brand up, and he calls me up and said, "Hey, dude, will you come model in our sauna?" I'm like, nice. No way, dude. I've seen Zoolander. I'm not gonna do that, you know. And so I'm like, my initial reaction was like, "Heck no, there's no way I'm freaking doing that." Yeah. And then it instantly came into my mind, that challenge, and I was like, "Bro, you have to say yes to this crap. You don't want to do it. Go say yes, bro." It was the most awkward thing I've probably not ever done, but it was pretty awkward. Something I would have never said yes to. And went and did it. It was cool. It was fine. Come home, I'm just laughing. I'm like making fun of myself with my wife, dude. I'm pulling like blue still, and like making all these Zoolander things. But it's like, that's it. That was one little thing that somebody said that kicked in there. And now it's like, no, dude, say yes to stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. And, you know, it's just cool. I'm 45 years old. You kind of get very comfortable in your life. You're just like career, you know, all the other stuff that you used to stress about in your 20s and 30s. It's like not as big a stress as it was. You're married, have kids, like, in a really good place, just comfort. And it's like, no, dude, you got to keep pushing. Yeah. You kind of get to this point where you're just like, I can just go on cruise control. But I don't think there's any such thing.
No, you got to fight that. We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, it's like you either progressing or regressing. You've heard that over and over. And you don't really buy it until you're in it, you know? And it's true. It's really true. So I'm grateful for that. Just being pushed by you guys, seeing you guys, the other bros, you know, and everybody striving to be better. Yeah. And so I've gotten a lot more out of it. Yeah. Than I thought I would, you know.
It's interesting.
Just a push. I'm 45 years old. I should be like winding things down, right? And I'm finding this new life. I want to keep going. I want to go do more. And I credit a lot of that to this group and to you guys. Yeah. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, it's infectious, right? You get around guys that really want to go, and our group's interesting, right? Because we are all at different levels, you know. And there's some dudes. It's interesting. I feel like there's some guys that I don't want to be arrogant enough to say I'm mentoring them. But I want to make myself 100% available if they want to be mentored or just want advice. Even on the most micro level, you know, like, hey, I'm going to buy this stock. What do you think? I'd be like, oh yeah, no, or no. You know, I'd just be like, cool, huh? Yeah. You know, like I love this stuff. So it's something you can kind of benefit from, all the way up to like full on, like, hey, I really have some question, you know, like, what do you think about this? And it's like, oh, you want my full opinion? It's like, yeah. And it's like, hey, let's go talk for like 3 hours. I'll tell you why I think this way, you know, and then go and do with it what you want. Because that's the best thing about life. It doesn't matter what I say or what anyone says. You get to make your own choices. Right. And so, but inside our group, I mean, there's dudes that like, there's guys that inspire me. You're one of them, you know. I like the way that people, it's not what people do. It's like how they live. You know, I like the way that people live. And so once you get on that side of the aisle with me, just the way you live is what inspires me, you know? And that has to do with how you treat people, how you show up, how you, there's confidence level in that. How you treat your family is huge. How you treat your wife is huge for me. I'm really drawn to guys that love their wives. It's an important characteristic to me because it's so easy nowadays to not do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, our guy group's amazing. And one cool thing about you, let's go into it.
Yeah, let's go there, dude.
Let's go straight into you.
I could use it, man.
You've been, what would, I guess we can call it semi-retired now for, remind me, it's like 5 years, right?
Yeah, ish. Yep.
Yeah. So talk about that. Why were you semi-retired?
Man, so I think that's just where my mindset was, where my bar was set. I think we talked about this a little bit before. My dad was successful. I had no clue until I was in, later on in life that he had made a decent amount of money. But I grew up in Rock Springs, Wyoming. You don't have a lot of $200, $300 million net worth individuals in that town. The richest dudes in there are probably worth like 10, you know what I mean? And so that's where you kind of set your bar, $5-10 million. You're great. You're good to go, and that's just what I thought was possible. I didn't think that it was even possible for me to do more. So you kind of go out, you do the hustle thing, the summer sales thing I did for a while. I started an insulation business after that, ran that for about 7 years with a good buddy. We sold that, and I was like, sweet, I hit my goal. I'm good, And in the meantime, I'd gotten married, 4 kids. Life was just kind of cruising. It wasn't any major issues or anything like that. And I just hit that bar and kind of said, okay, I'm good, And then, then you're just living and just like embracing. And the cool thing, the thing that I'm so grateful for, is the relationship with my kids was big. I had a lot of time to spend with them, had a lot of time to spend with my wife, and we had good relationships before, but it's incredible now, right? Because I spent so much time with them. But the regret I have is that I did kind of just stop working for a little bit. My kids haven't really seen me work because they were young.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important that they see that. And so now I'm kind of like, with this group and everything else, just inspiring me, like, get going, bro. Yeah. Like, this is not what life is about. Like, it's part of it. So it's like, you're either out of balance with work or you're out of balance with family.
Right.
It's like, and there's the 2 different theories of what is balance, right? It's like, is that even possible? And you hear that a new popular one is like, it's just more seasons of your life.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think there's still a little bit more to the balancing. I think as you get older, when I was younger, I tried to do everything, right? When you're a young entrepreneur, you're just starting out. You don't trust other people. You don't think other people can run the business as well as you can. So you're doing everything. You're wearing all hats. You're working 90 hours a week. And we talked about this too with our kids, but when my son was about 5 or 6, I'm like, man, I don't even really know him because I'm gone all the time, And so I kind of forced myself to start putting people in place that could help me out, take some of the things off. And it was a hard thing to start trusting other people to be able to do the jobs that you were doing. But then you realize, dude, there's a lot of people that can do those jobs even better than you, and your whole role and your whole job is to inspire them and help motivate them and enable them to do that job, to make it so they want to do that. And that you're rooting for them, get them on the same team. And once I kind of figured that out, that's when it kind of took off with the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but
yeah, no, exactly. I think there's a lot to congratulate you on inside that. I think, because you did build a business. It's hard to do, and you sold it, which is also hard to do. It's hard to exit, because you've had to have built a company up that is valuable. There's a lot of people, like real estate agents are interesting, right? Because you can be a real estate agent, you can go make a lot of money, but you don't really have a business to sell. And then you kind of start building an office, right? And then even with an office, and maybe I'm totally wrong with this, but I don't hear a lot of people that sell their office to another office. I think there's more like, I don't even know, transferring of people. Yeah, then they kind of,
that's foreign.
They start kind of stop doing real estate, or they're broke. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
But then there's like, no, I have project managers and a purchasing agent and salespeople, and
you have a system.
Yeah, system with a CPA, and like you've built this entire company, which is exactly, it's a system. That's funny you say that. I always say that stuff. and then you sell it off. You got to, which is a real dose of reality, because it's like the market for anything is what someone is willing to pay for it. And so you can think your business is worth $100 million, but if someone will only pay 25 for it, guess what? It's only worth 25 million. Yeah. And so when you go in that world to exit, it's very, very interesting where multiples are and where like really your value in your business is. And you did all that. You went A to Z. It was done. You sold it, and you have other assets, obviously, that, you've invested into. But then you made the conscious decision to like really dive into the family, which was, in my opinion, we won't know for another 10 years, right? But I think in 10 years, you'll look back and go, oh, that might have been the best decision I ever made. And it depends how far back you want to trace it, right? It's like maybe the best decision I ever made was to start that installation company. And then I ended up selling it at the perfect time to spend time with my kids. And then I got back into the business world to, show them what it's like to work and build businesses. And then, now I'm sitting here at 55 years old and it's like, oh, I made some real good choices along the way. So many lessons that you can teach your kids. And
well, I think I told you last week when we were talking that I did kind of regret not, I think maybe taking as long as I did.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was a couple of years, but then, you think about it like that and like, look, what does regret do for you? It doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
So what are the blessings? What things can I be grateful for? What gratitude can I have for this time? And bro, that's it. I see a lot of dudes that are uber successful. They put all their time, energy, everything into their business. And their families are crap. Mm-hmm. Their kids feel like their dad doesn't love them. Their wife feels, she's resentful of the businesses because that was the priority.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I don't have that. Like my family is strong, and I'm super proud of that. I think that's one of my, not that I take credit for that because my wife is absolutely amazing. My kids, people say, I just think they came out pretty good, and they're not going to say they're without their problems, of course. And there's still going to be issues. They're still young. My oldest is 15. My youngest is turning 6, so there's a lot of years to go, but man, like I don't have regrets. I'm super grateful for that time. I'm grateful for the, just the love that was developed in me for them. It made me realize that's what life is really about. It's about people, connections, relationships. And if you can embrace that and then transfer that into the business world too, I think the money will follow.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my wife just last night because I'm kind of bummed, dude. I'm 45 years old. I'm working on starting a couple new things right now. Yeah. It's like, dude, I should be done. Why not? Why not just be done? But then what does that mean? But then you think of it like, man, think of it. You take all the experiences, everything you've learned, and you can create a system from day one. Instead of wearing all the hats and just being busy and swamped, can you create that system by putting people in place right away? You have a little bit more capital that you can throw at it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have that experience of how to do that already. And so that it gets me excited. It gets me like, let's go make a difference, you know? And I told myself in my 20s, I played a lot. Got in a little debt. Like I'm amazed my wife even was interested. I was playing a lot of volleyball, snowboarding a lot, and living off of credit cards. 30s, went out and hustled and made money. 40s, it's all about passion projects now. Mm-hmm. I will not do something I can't be passionate about. And even talking last week about the couple opportunities, one opportunity I have, which is just absolutely incredible, and I haven't even finalized talking with them. And so hopefully this won't be released before then. But
you got like 3 weeks.
The money could be amazing.
Yeah.
But man, I just can't get the passion behind it.
Yeah.
And it's actually an easier road and probably more money, to be completely honest. But I have to be true. I have to be true to myself, to what I'm feeling, to what I think, what I can control. It's got to be that, dude.
And the good thing is you earned that. You've earned the right to make that choice. A lot of people see,
it's scary.
I think people get jealous of money, right? Because they just look at money as an outcome and really money is a tool. Right. Yeah. Because what money does is give you the freedom to do what you want. Right.
I like that.
Very fortunate to be 45 years old and be like, you know what? No, I'm going to go do this because the money, people that say money doesn't matter are stupid because that's not true. Yeah. Right. It matters.
And people that say they're not motivated by
I'm not motivated by money. It's like, then why are you working?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Why are you getting paid any money then? But you're going to be able to go and say, and I know the 2 options that you're talking about because we talked about them. I think it can go either way. I mean, there's a little bit more guarantee on one side, right? Mm-hmm. But the other side, if you build that business big too, it's like, but you're talking both of those businesses. If you sell or exit, you're going to get a massive windfall.
Well, we'll see. Like I could be bankrupt too in a year. Who knows?
Nah, I think you got enough support in the world to make it work.
But the one, man, it's just it can change people's lives. Yeah. And that's the one that's the one I want to pursue. Yeah.
And you already know my advice, so
I know it's crazy. I wish we were a couple months down the road and I could just talk about it, but it's not quite there. So
well, we'll do it again then. Yeah, we'll do it again. Actually, this might be really cool. People are listening to this. It's like, because you're still in the choice stage.
Yeah.
You know, you could wake up tomorrow and be like, no, I got to do this one. And then by the afternoon when you're eating a sandwich by yourself, you're like, what am I thinking?
I'm talking to those guys this afternoon. So.
Yeah. Which will be interesting, right? Because if you say no and they really want you, they're gonna amp up the offer, right? Or they're gonna amp up something, you know, or not beg, but be like, come on, Brandon, what the? We want you, man. Like, this is a great business. Like, you know, like they're gonna throw some emotion on you.
Oh, it's already there, yeah. Because I mean, they will go big. I have. It's like it's one of those that I really believe in. I think they're gonna crush. They're gonna be successful. Yeah. So that's what makes the decision so tough. Yeah. Because my 20-year-old self would make a completely different decision. Yeah. Shoot, my 40-year-old self, 39-year-old self would make a different decision.
Which is amazing, right?
But yeah.
It's amazing you get to do that. But you, I'm glad you're going to shed all the regret crap. You're never going to regret the last 5 years of just diving with the family, going boating all the time, going, you know, whatever you guys have done, all the time, all the lessons that you spent. It's been awesome. Because you have plenty of money. It's more like, I think it's a balancing thing, right? You're not feeling as fulfilled currently because for whatever reason that is, right? But really what it is that it's a selfish part. So you kind of want to fight that because you're like, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to be selfish. But the truth is as men, as providers, we need to provide. We need to be building. We need to be solving problems and doing things like that. And it's one thing to do that with the family. It's another thing to do it outside of the family and then have them influence and watch, and then you can build and teach. And it's all this like minutia that just is constantly moving forward. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's, you know, I mean, obviously I battle with that, right? It's like, man, I have, it's funny. I felt like I've missed a bunch of my kids growing up. I really haven't. And I've actually been more present in certain circumstances than people who are like, have like a normal W-2 job. Right. Right. Cause I mean, I've been a boss for a long time. I can do whatever I want. So I can leave things and go to things and go see things. And like there's all this stuff that's going on in that world. But then my problem is I look back and I remember my kids at 4. I remember them at 2. And I'm like, holy crap, I got a 13-year-old, you know, dude. And it's like, it goes quick. Yeah. And it's
people say it, you don't believe it, you know? Yeah.
Oh, I believe it now. I'll tell you. Yeah. But I look at her and it's like, we have an amazing relationship. And, you know, I'm going to be able to support her and do all these kind of things, you know, but like, if you go back in time and people are like, well, you know, if you have regrets, and it's like, and I have built an amazing financial system for my family, right? That is going to give them opportunities that they're not going to be able to get without that. It's just the basic truth. Yeah. And if there was sacrifices made along the way, in the long term, they'll all pay out. I think when I'm 60, 65 and I've got grandkids and I've done everything that I wanted to do financially, and then I've spent years and years and years really doing what I want to do, and then influencing and making sure that I'm leaving a legacy through my posterity of good people, that people that are trying hard, that are, you know, members of the community. Like that's the kind of stuff that I want to like really slam into my kids that we've already done. You know, I take them on charity things and but I also tell them why. We don't just show up and be like, okay, you know, let's go do this. You know, it's like, you got to understand why we're doing this, you know? Yeah. And I'm really good at not having regrets. You know, that's one of my top qualities actually. Cause it's like, life is just, we're going to die one day. So I don't have time to regret, you know?
I like it.
But you know, when you look back at your kids though, and they're growing up, it's an interesting balance. It's a really interesting balance of what you got to do. But you also, and I have to, and every person has to live their life fulfilled, you know? And just because you have kids doesn't mean you put your own personal stuff on pause. In my opinion, which is the right opinion. That's good.
Of course.
In my world, what you have to do is like the mission. You have to show up hard all the time. So if you're knocking doors, you're knocking doors. If you're on P-Day, you're going, you know, you're having fun, you're doing things, you're experiencing the place that you're at. You're not just reading a novel in your house or whatever some weird missionary would do. When you go to Zone Conference, you're going to have fun. You're going to sing the songs and laugh and bro it up with all the guys there. It's the same thing in my life, right? Like I go to concerts with my wife. I take her on dates. Right. I take my kids on dates. When I'm with them, it's insanely efficient. It's all high energy. It's always, I've always got to be on.
That's cool.
And it's kind of overwhelming for some people to hear that, right? It's like, I can't fail. I don't have time to fail. I have too many people that depend on me. I have a family that depends on me. I have employees that depend on me. It's just not an option. So I always have to be on, you know? And I like that. It's not that I don't like that. You know, some people think that if you're always on, you need like a break. And it's like, no, you have to find where the joy is and the gratitude is all the time. And if you can do it daily, then you really feel happy, but you're still always on.
I like that.
You know, you can't take a break from being a dad. Yeah. What are you going to do? Take 6 months off?
Yeah.
what does that even mean? Right.
Well, and it's interesting when you're always on like that, when you're showing up as a dad, the love that you have for your kids increases like crazy too. And I feel like it's probably the same with your business as well. You put time into it, you love it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how do you direct that love? Where do you put that love? And then you focus on that, and that's where you put your efforts. Yeah. You know, and then it makes it easier to show up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I go through phases. I always, you know, my wife teases me. She says, "You're a hardworking, lazy guy." Yeah. You know, and it's true. Like, I want to go play every day. I want to go boating. I want to go skiing. I want to go hiking. I want to, you know what I mean? Just go do stuff with the kids, whatever, you know, but in order to do that, you have to put in the work too. Yeah. Otherwise you can't do it, you know? So, but I could be very, very content sitting on a couch, you know, playing Call of Duty with my kids. You know?
Yeah. But I love Call of Duty.
But I don't know. I like that though. You got to be on. I like it.
You just have to be in it. I think once you accept it, then go beyond. Yeah. You know, we'll rest when we die. Yeah. You know, it's kind of my attitude when we do the Ludices, like I was talking earlier. It's like, guys, we ain't sleeping. You guys can sleep Sunday afternoon when you make it home. Like, all this weekend, we're just going to have fun and just make this experience amazing.
I heard that's what Iceland was too.
That's exactly what Iceland was, dude. Dude, we were sleeping like 3 hours a night. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I mean, people would sleep in the cars every now and again, because it was just like, you know, you have a 3-hour ride. It's just like, yeah. But dude, one night Nick and I were coming home. So Nick was driving, I was in the front seat, dude. And I just kept on putting on song after song after song. We were just screaming at the top of our lungs, you know, like laughing, and everyone was singing along. And I remember we put on Fall Out Boy, you know, that Sugar, We're Going Down Swinging. Yeah. And I turned around, and there's a guy in our group, you know, swears a lot, and I just freaking love him, dude. He's like the best. And I think he's a country dude, or he's at least a heavy metal guy, right? And I was like, all right, sorry guys, this next one, you're either going to love it or hate it. You know, and I just started playing it. You just hear him in the background being like, mother.
He was so anti.
We just start singing this song at the top of our lungs, me and Nick, dude. It's like a little emo, loving, poppy song, you know, and he's like taking it, you know.
He's just torture back there.
If I remember, do you know who Jed Elton is yet? Yeah. So Jed was like behind me, just like, I just looked around, he's had this grin on his face, you know, just like,
he's just loving it.
You are 6'7" singing an emo song. Like, it's just bananas.
That's cool, dude.
It was good, man. Yeah, it was awesome.
No, that's what's fun about you though, bro. Like, you just attract people too. You can just see it. Like, you walk in that group, you're just the life, dude. Yeah. You're life, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's fun being that too, because it's infectious, right? Because I feel like
for sure.
When I bring some energy, and even if there's a couple other guys that are bringing energy, right? It just infects everybody, and all of a sudden everybody's just in energy full on. So yeah, it's amazing.
That's so cool.
But it's time to wrap up. So I need your best 2 minutes of advice. Your 2 minutes, absolute best. Now, 2 minutes is always subjective.
No, that's fine.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think a lot of it would come from that ceremony we did down in St. George, the cacao thing. Yeah. You know, that was I wasn't expecting. I kind of laughed at that stuff in the past, to be completely honest. Sitting there in a yoga room with a bunch of dudes going through a guided meditation. I was kind of like, whatever, what is this stuff, you know? Yeah. But I was like, hey, I'm here. Let's just go for it. Let's go in it. And, you know, how she took us through that guide to go find yourself playing in a tree as a young child, you know, and look at yourself. What would you say to yourself? And the thing that I felt in that moment was just overwhelming love, you know, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but I viewed myself in that moment as my own son. And I felt this huge love for myself. And I realized in that moment that I had been living my life according to a bunch of boxes and things that were kind of set for me, whether that was by church, family, society in general. It's like, go do this, and this, you know? Mm-hmm. And I did it, and it was fine. And I'm happy, and I love my life, you know, and it's been a good one. But I realized, man, like that wasn't me deciding that all the time. So what do I really want? How can I best show up for myself? And how can I love myself the best? And for me personally, I can love myself by loving others. I feel like that's something I've always been very easy for me. I just care for people. I just love people. It doesn't matter if they're the janitor or the CEO. I love treating people all the same. There's lessons to be learned from every single person I've ever met in my life. And it doesn't matter their status. It doesn't matter their color, their skin, their language they speak. So I guess my biggest advice is like, learn from everybody. Don't think you're better than anybody, because you're not, you know? We're the same. We're humans. We're sent here on earth. Some of us had more success in one areas, and we're absolutely failing in other areas. So who knows, that homeless dude on the street might have a significant lesson to teach you why you're not showing up as dad, you know, or might have a significant lesson to teach you. Maybe he used to be a multi-millionaire running this huge business. You have no clue unless you look at him with open eye and say, what can I learn from you? So I'd say love other people, love yourself, figure out how to fall in love with yourself, which sounds kind of weird. And for me, even 3 months ago, that would have sounded weird. But I'm really trying to have as much love for myself as I do for my kids. And in turn, that love comes out and manifests to other people. And I'd say the second thing is it also came from that weekend. So it's just fresh on my mind, I guess. But just take the next step. Don't get overwhelmed. I think for me, I look at big picture too often, and I want to go from 0 to 100 right away. To get to 0 to 100, you got to take a lot of little baby steps all the time, and consistency is going to be key. And I look back at my life and any successes I've had, even failures a lot of the time, it's because of consistent decisions, consistent actions over time. And so that's probably it, Mark. Those are probably my two takeaways for today.
No, those are excellent. I couldn't agree more. But I also always agree with everyone's. I feel like I always say that.
Well, it's like, how can you disagree though, right?
Yeah,
like what's true to one person, that's their truth. That's
exactly.
their thing. So you got to respect that, try to understand it and say, okay, how can I apply that to my life too?
But I feel like for me to kind of add on to what you're saying, I probably learned in my early 20s to love myself.
Yeah.
I'm a bigger dude. I'm not like a washboard ab guy. You know what I mean? And that's fine. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's a time where that will be like super important to me, but I think a lot of people look at their bodies and if they're not perfect, they don't like themselves. Right. And then the guys that have perfect bodies are so damn nitpicky about it. They don't love themselves either. A
lot of them. Yeah. I was going to say a lot of that is a self-conscious thing anyway.
Yeah. And I look at my own self, and I'm like, no, I'm a good person, and when I'm not, I fix it. That's another thing about me. But like what you're saying is so important because you really can't love other people the way that you need to if you don't love yourself. Doesn't mean you think you're perfect or you're arrogant or something like that, but it's like when I look in the mirror, I like myself. I like what I've built. I like the way I treat people or the way that I conduct business, and like a major part of that is you got to be honest with people. Like people who are dishonest, you can't love yourself. You're a liar,
Yeah.
And so, but what you're saying is amazing advice, and people need to hear that over and over and over again because it really needs to settle in. And you need to love yourself and then take yourself and go give it to other people, especially if you're a dad, especially if you're a husband or a friend, right? Like his brother.
Employees, man. Like they're still employees. You still might have to fire some people, you know what I mean? Because you got to do business thing, but you can do it in a way that they know that you love them, you care for them, you want them to succeed. And if they can catch that and feel that, I just feel they're going to work a lot harder for themselves, for you, for their families. Yeah. I just think it's all about love, man. That sounds so cheesy. Yeah. I belong in the 60s, dude. It's back in the love.
You're in a Beatles song right now.
Yeah, there you go. But that's something that's hit me for sure.
Yeah, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
And when you when you find yourself thinking you're better than somebody else, man, you got to check yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You might be good at something, but there's somebody else better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, dude, that was fun.
This is part 1. I'm going to write it on the thing, part 1.
Part 1.
So in 1 year from now, we're going to do part 2.
One thing I'm thinking of as we were talking, I was like, maybe it would be cool. And I'm not a social media guy. We don't do social media. We're Generation X, right? Yeah. We're kind of in there, but not really, But I'm like, maybe it would be cool to do something where you go like, here's from start, and you just document. You just do like
you absolutely should
build your business, make it like a social media thing that the people kind of see what you do to go on. I don't know. I'll have tens of followers.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Hey, I'm okay with that, but it'd be cool just for me, for my kids to see too, but then maybe it'll influence other people to see it and to see your successes and your failures. So it's,
if you did a video
blog, all roses, you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you did a video blog every day that was like 5 minutes long and then clip that all together and it was like an hour and a half, dude, it would be so interesting. Today sucked.
Yeah, I mean, for real.
Boom, 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 boom. Then the next day you're like, all right, fix the stuff from yesterday.
Yep.
I'm back on track. Made this relationship. Oh, dude, it would be.
Talk about uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like a reality show.
I just caught myself in my own trap, dude, saying I was going to not say no to uncomfortable things.
Hey, there you go. Let that sink in.
And now this is recorded and everything too. So maybe we'll have to figure something like that out.
I love it.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on.
No, appreciate you, dude. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Feeling the love, brother.
Good. Good.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram at President McCormack.